And we are just going to wait a moment to make sure that we are live on, we've got YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and it looks like we are live. Morena Tato. Welcome to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatzis, your host, and today I feel really lucky that we are going to be talking about B Corporation certification and just little things that you can do in your business to kind of move forward in this new world that we're living in. So what it means to be a B Corp. We've got Angie Farrugia here. Did I pronounce that right? I meant to ask you.
You did. Well done.
My Greek background has got the Italian going. Angie Farrugia from B Lab, Australia, and Aotearoa, New Zealand. We've got Kate Brownsey from Pathfinder and Kirsty McKay from Sawmill Brewery. So we're going to talk a little bit about these B Corp certified businesses, and then you can ask any of your questions that you want. We've got a Q&A function here on the Zoom. Pop them in. I will be fielding those. And if you're in the LinkedIn or the Facebook, please add your comments or your questions, and I'll take a look and see what you've got to say. All of your answers can be questioned. All of your questions can be answered here today. So make sure you ask all those questions for our experts. Angie, take it away. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kia ora koutou. As Georgia said, I'm Angie. I'm the Director of Communications and Engagement here at B Lab Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand. My role is very varied. One of the great things about my job is that I get to meet incredible leaders in B Corp. So I'm really excited to be here with Kirsty and Kate. We are a growing community of businesses who are looking to improve their impact on people, planet, and communities. So I thought it might be helpful, for being that this is an introduction to B Corp. Perhaps I could do a little introduction about what it is to be a B Corp and how to get certified. And then we will introduce Kirsty and Kate, who will share their experience of moving towards certification as a B Corp and joining this global community of businesses. So B Corps, as I said, are businesses that are meeting high standards of performance in environmental and social impact. They're accountable and they're transparent about the impact that they have on the world. We now have over 8,000 B Corps worldwide. And in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we've just hit 150 certified B corporations, which is an exciting milestone as we're in B Corp month now. So March every year is our global annual campaign where we celebrate what it means to be a B Corp. So to reach 150 at this point was really exciting. So B Lab is the organisation, or the not-for-profit organisation behind B Corp certification. And our vision is to transform the global economy to one that is inclusive, equitable, and regenerative. And we do that in a few ways, but one of the ways that we really are best known for is for certifying B Corps. And this is about changing the behaviour of business. So in order to be certified, pardon the pun, in order to achieve certification, there are three main things that you need to do. The first one is to reach the high performance standards in environmental and social impact. And the way that you measure this and manage your impact is through a free tool that we offer any business called the B Impact Assessment. So the B Impact Assessment tool is a series of questions that looks at the whole business. So from all aspects of the business, from the governance of the business to the impact you have on your workers and the community, which includes your supply chain, also your customers, and then the environment is a core part of the impact that you have on the world as well. So to achieve certification, you need to reach a minimum of 80 points in this quite rigorous assessment across those 5 impact topics. And what we do find is there's probably around 200 questions across all aspects of the business. It can be a really helpful tool for people to assess where they're at and make a plan to improve. But most average businesses will score about 50 points. So that's what we've seen from the data over the course of 17 years since this organisation has been operating. And so achieving 80 is quite a difficult, challenging feat to reach. And then we encourage businesses to keep improving their impact beyond that point. So it's an ongoing commitment to continuous improvement. The second requirement is accountability. So we encourage businesses across the world who certify as B Corps to change the governance of their business, to recognise their impact or consider their impact on all of their stakeholders in their decision making. And in Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, the way that they do this is typically through modifying the company's constitution or governing documents to include a clause that says what the purpose of the business is, and also a commitment to considering the interests of all stakeholders. So it's a legal commitment, and it's a significant shift, and it's going above and beyond what a normal business does. And then the final requirement is transparency. So all certified B corporations are required to publish their impact profile on the global directory. So that discloses the positive impact as well as any negative risk or impact disclosures that are outlined in your certification. And then you join this amazing global movement of businesses. So speaking of these amazing businesses, I would like to throw to Kirsty and ask you, Kirsty, to introduce yourself a little more and your journey to certification, please.
Cool. Okay, so I'm Kirsty and I run the Sawmill Brewery in Matakana with my partner Mike and an amazing team of people here. Sawmill has been brewing for 20 years this year. Mike and I took over about 14 years ago. It was pretty small. We're now in some beautiful purpose-built premises on a small farm, really, just out of Matakana, and that location has thrown up lots of problems that we've been able to resolve really positively in terms of our environmental impact. But when we got to that site, Mike and I had talked a lot about how do we build a really great business and what does that look like, and we started to try and map that out ourselves. And luckily, because that would have, when I think about it now, would have been such a huge job, luckily we came across B Corp, I think because a brewery called New Belgium in America was certified, and so I started to look into it, and it was really what we were looking for. B Corp covers all aspects of your business, and I really appreciated the structure that it gave. So we set off with these 200 questions. It was really tough. We don't have a sustainability team. We don't have a sustainability manager. You know, we were trying to, mainly it was to work this into my everyday job. And it actually took 2 years. It was really tricky to, we're small, so a lot of things we do are not written policy. It's really difficult to get industry data on anything. We ended up needing to use American data. So it was a really tough process. But having said that, the structure was so helpful to us and allowed us to consider a whole lot of things that we wouldn't have on our own. I think we would have been really focused only on our environmental and social impact. We didn't think about, say, governance, the value of transparency, and a whole lot of other things that B Corp alerts you to. And I, as I said to Georgia earlier, I often say to people, just use the questionnaire. Like you said, Angie, it's free. Just use the questionnaire for some inspiration, even if you feel like the whole process is a lot. The questionnaire itself is super useful and inspiring. So we certified in 2019, which was really exciting for us and kind of changed the culture of our business, I think, in a really interesting way. Not drastically, but it really focused us on being solutions driven and curious. So we are always asking ourselves now, could we do this differently? And that's a really, really valuable mindset to have in your business, regardless of what you're questioning. So I think when people don't necessarily hold on to the idea that we've always done it this way and it can't be done another way, it's really liberating, and it's also a great makes people's work more interesting and exciting, I think, to think that you can really find a different way to do pretty much anything. So we recertified last year, And it's been incredibly valuable to us internally. I don't think, certainly when we first certified, it wasn't something that our consumers knew a lot about. And I still don't know if many people would buy our beer because we're B Corp. But one of the amazing things we've found is that it's attracted people to come and work with us. We have a lot of people who come and want to be involved in Sawmill because we're an industry leader, even in a global sense now, because we know we can be measured against breweries internationally, and we know we're one of the top performing breweries in the world. So we have people often that approach us or want to be involved in Sawmill because of that. And I think when it's been a difficult labour market, that's a huge advantage.
I have a quick question for you, Kirsty, just on my own, thinking about, you were talking about, you didn't have the data and you were trying to find all of this information.
Yeah.
And you laid the groundwork for that. So as a company, do you feel like some other businesses could then reach out to you and you would have that framework for them? You'd have that answer. Oh yeah, here, this is what we did, this, here are the answers. So since you already did the hard yards and figured all that out.
Totally. And I think this is when you have to really grapple with the idea of competition, because it would be a real Pyrrhic victory if we're the only B Corp certified brewery in 5 or 10 years from now. We'd love to see, would love to see other breweries and other manufacturers certify. So one of our challenges at the moment is how can we be more helpful and more transparent to other businesses. I talk to small B Corps all the time, or people that are working through their certification or are interested in it a lot, like almost weekly. But I think it's being able to show, I think particularly that you can show that this is good for business. So there's this misconception that, particularly in terms of good environmental practice, that's costly, that will somehow negatively affect your bottom line. And, it's been a difficult couple of years for a lot of businesses. And what I try and say to people all the time is, this is really good business. It's a lot about efficiency and good practice, and you attract the best people. And whether I say, if you care about the environment, then look at B Corp. And if you don't care about the environment, look at B Corp, because it's good business. And I think that's useful for people to see, and especially being able to hand over data like, okay, this is what we invested in our solar power system. This is how much it generates, especially for manufacturers, because we have massive energy needs. We're really resource intensive.
Yeah, that's amazing. There is a question in here, Angie, but I'm going to have you answer this at the end. Just so you know, in the Q&A. So Erica, hold on, and we'll get to you at the end. If anyone has any questions as this stuff is coming up now with Kirsty. Kirsty, you and I were talking earlier before we started as well around just the idea of judgment, like feeling really super judged, like especially as far as sustainability goes and an environmental impact as we move forward. And we were talking about AI. That's a big thing that a lot of us have talked about, especially here at Digital Boost. We talk about AI a lot. So you wouldn't feel judged if you don't understand an AI tool. So in a sense, here's a set of tools. This assessment is here for you to learn and to understand more and better how to move forward. Kirsty, there's something on your camera. What's happened?
Oh,
is it a kitty cat? It's you all see. It's all of a sudden something has moved over. There we go.
It was a fly.
See, the flies are even coming in.
I think we're just working on our first, published sustainability report at the moment. And I think as a small business, because there's a whole lot of, corporates do this and they're big, and that's a kind of a different scene. There's whole teams working on that. I want us to publish something that's really relevant to small business, that doesn't look like they could never do it, and that's really transparent about what we struggle with. I think that we need to see more of that. We need to see people talking more about what's hard, where they're struggling to make progress. It's been this kind of clamor to tell what, you know, all the things you're doing really well, perhaps in order to reach consumers and be the loudest in that space. I think it probably is more valuable in some respects if we talk about what we're not doing that well, maybe.
I think that's brilliant, especially to do it in community. And that's the whole point, right? We're coming together in community as B Corp certified businesses, or not even being B Corp certified, but just being able to implement certain ways forward.
Yeah.
And doing that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be honest with our consumers as well, that that we give them information that's they can digest, that they can understand, and that it lets other people also go, actually, we're finding that really hard too, so we don't want to keep it a secret. You know, we're also using heaps of LPG or whatever, you know, whatever thing we're having a hard time with.
Yeah. Great. Angie, did you want to add anything to that? You're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, there's loads of great conversation topics in there, Kirsty. But what I might suggest is let's hear from Kate and Pathfinder's story, and then we can all have a conversation together. So Kate, tell us about your story from Pathfinder.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been at Pathfinder personally for about 6 years now, so quite a long time. Pathfinder itself, we're a small asset manager, so we run a Kiwi saver, we have a few managed funds, co-founded by John Berry and Paul Brownsey in 2009. Starting out a little bit alternative, a little bit unique, very small boutique fund manager. They had a specialized water fund focusing on water sustainability, seeing that there's sort of a large crisis coming to the forefront. And always been really fundamental to Pathfinder having this purpose. And it's been embedded sort of the mission is to achieve collective well-being and individual wealth. So we want people to be making money for their retirement. We need to be making profit for them, but we want to be aligned with our purpose. We want to be doing something good for the planet. And so I think it was about 2017, 2018 when John Berry, our CEO, first heard about B Corp certification, and actually from a fellow services business, Hatzis. It was the first New Zealand company, financial service company, to certify in New Zealand. And they put John to it, sort of suggesting, look, this aligns with our values, this will align with your values, you guys are an ethical manager. And so that turned into me into it and seeing how we would
pause. Sorry, Kate. I hate to interrupt you because the sound is a bit off, and I don't know if that's just me or is everyone finding, you're jumping. Our tech life today is like, so I want it.
Yeah, maybe my internet's not very good.
Let's try this. Turn the camera off. I hate not seeing your gorgeous face, but let's turn the camera off and see if the sound is a little bit better. I know we tried so hard to get the camera to work, and now we're saying, turn it off. All right, now let's see if you're...
Okay, how is this? How can you hear me now?
Oh, brilliant.
Any better?
Much better. Yes. Yeah. So back it up a little bit and tell us just a tiny bit more about your way forward with Pathfinder. Let's do this. Yeah.
So I'll start with where we found out about the B Corp certification through our business Hatzis, who's good friend of ours, ally of ours. We love to be sort of collaborating as B Corp businesses, and so that's how we found out about it, which really sort of piqued the interest of our CEO. Yes. So he was really interested in the framework and that it focuses on the business level rather than just the product level. So because that's often the case with these kind of certifications, you find where you can cert a product, but actual business is necessarily embedded there. B Corp calls for collective systemic change, and especially in transforming our economic system. And so we know at Pathfinder we are the benefactors and we are operators of this financial system. And so it's important to Pathfinder that we are driven by purpose. And the requirement to amend the governing document for us is something that was really helpful in making sure that we embedded and is going to continue to be embedded going forward. Obviously, we're looking after people money, and so we take that very seriously. We need to look after their money, but we also take the purpose aspect just as seriously, because at the end of the day, there is no profit within it. So we do see it as a big responsibility being certified. It's journey. Obviously, there's a lot of questions to answer, and it did take us probably about 2 years before we finally actually were able to submit our certification fully. But it's been something that's, as Kirsty said, is something that we find that employees love. Again, it's, for me, I don't think it's necessarily about how many customers can we get out of being B Corp, although I'm sure there are some that will come to us because of, but for us, it's really, the point of it is really about the purpose.
Yeah, I think it's still, it's still, the sounds is still a bit jumpy, Kate. We got some of that.
Yeah, I think what was really, really interesting and important to hear is the commitment to purpose and the impact change. So particularly for financial companies and the capital that is in our economy, how much that fuels impact or negative impact as well. Maybe Kate, maybe if you can see if you can maybe find some headphones or a microphone option that might help with the sound so that we can keep the conversation going. Because it is a bit jumpy, so it's quite hard to follow.
Yeah, does the sound any better?
Still not perfect. It's just jumping a little bit, unfortunately.
It almost sounds like interference of some kind. So maybe a mic or headphones could work.
Yeah.
I must be now. Is that better now? Not really.
No. Maybe while you're working through that, Kate, see if you've got if you can find headphones or another option. I might just pick up on a couple of things that you mentioned. And also that Kirsty mentioned. One of the points around the B impact assessment, Kate mentioned that it took about 2 years to be ready to submit. And I know that Kirsty, you took some time as well to complete your initial certification, and then the ongoing requirement of recertifying every 3 years. So it's a kind of ongoing commitment. One thing that I would flag, which you also mentioned, Georgia, is that the B impact assessment is a tool that is available to anyone, and B Lab's intention is to shift the economic system and to improve the behaviour of businesses and the way we understand the role of business in society, and also the structure of capitalism that underpins the economy. So there's the big things, and we don't necessarily need to see everybody certify. What we do need to see is everyone improve. So, and to be on this journey together. So to be part of the movement. So that making conscious decisions and shifting the mindset, which I thought was a really great point that you made earlier, Kirsty, around the way that the doing the assessment and thinking about your impact shifts the mindset of business. And yeah, I'm curious to know, why do you think that this sort of mindset shift or the perception of the role of business really does need to change? I'm going to throw that one to Kirsty, and then we'll see if Kate can join in.
Well, I guess we need to change for the climate as much as anything, for more equality. We're going fairly quickly in the other direction. For those reasons, really, I mean, that seems to us to be a very pressing, imminent need, and business is a huge part of that, and we have a big impact, especially on people's everyday life. So we have a huge role to play.
Yeah, absolutely. B Corp is quite well known for the environmental impact side of what it helps businesses to improve upon. But one of the, I guess, core foundational parts is the governance, but also the social impact. So how we treat our people in our who work for us, but also in our supply chain, and the ongoing kind of community outside of that too. You mentioned that business, it's opened up doors in terms of working with you, so interest in working with you from whether that is partnerships or other businesses interested in collaborating. And I think that's something that we do hear a lot from other businesses as well who are joining the B Corp community. Do you think that that sort of opened up other opportunities and ideas that perhaps you might not have thought about before as well, like meeting new businesses and working with other businesses?
I think on a personal level, you know, because we've been working in this industry for about 14 years, I found it really, really, I felt super excited all over again. And I think I felt like I'd found my community of people, because there's so many commonalities. You know, we run our own business, so your heart and soul is in it. And I think a lot about the legacy that Sawmill will leave, and how important it is that for me that my kids say, you know, they look back and say, well, you know, mum and dad did their absolute best and they pushed all the boundaries they could with their business to do better. And I'm really driven by that, actually.
Yeah, that's great. And leaving the world in a better place for future generations is definitely a motivating factor for many of us. I'm going to just check in with Kate to see. Kate, how's your microphone going?
I have got something. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah,
well done.
Face, I can see that's better. Great. Okay.
Yes. Amazing. Awesome. So do you want to pick up, you got to the point where you were talking about the importance of purpose being like the serious nature of having an embedded purpose in your business, and the responsibility that comes with that. Do you want to pick up where you left off there?
Yeah, so I guess I was going to say, you know, about, I guess, embedding the purpose. What we found is really important is having really strong and committed senior leadership, because it's, you know, it's all very well to have someone sort of on my level coming in and saying, you know, this is B Corp, this is what we're doing, but you really do need to have that support at the highest levels. And so, you know, again, going back to that legal amendment, I think that's something that's really helped in, you know, encouraging that senior leadership to actually really be committed. Yeah.
Awesome. And so could you tell us a little bit about, have you recertified recently?
Yeah, so technically in the last year, so sort of end of last year, but we are still in that, you know, going back and forth, getting recertified sort of phase.
Great. And one of the things I always like to ask is, like, what advice, I mean, you mentioned that that involving your senior leadership and having commitment is really important. What other advice do you have for businesses who are looking to measure and manage their impact through B Corp or otherwise?
I would say sort of communicating across the entire business is definitely very important. Getting that support from everyone, getting them interested and passionate. I think we've found that actually the second you even start talking about this, people really do get, you know, really interested, and they actually do care a lot. And so that's something that's been encouraging for us, and also really helpful for me, especially being the person that is, you know, going through and answering all the questions. I've got to talk to a lot of people across the business. And so obviously that's always going to work out a lot better if people are supportive and into what they're doing.
Great. What about you, Kirsty? Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I hear this come up a lot, and I think, gosh, we're lucky that we got to set this tone, and that we didn't have to, I guess, convince anybody that this is what we wanted to do. And, you know, our team, I agree with Kate, it's really important to get your team involved. And I didn't do that the first time. I really just worked away with my head down on it, mostly myself. And the second time we adopted the idea that Hamish Reid from Sinlay gave us of making a beehive, you know, and it's basically saying to everybody, do you want to choose a part of the certification that you want to manage? If there's other people that want to help you, then you make a team and you guys work on that together. And that worked really well until COVID basically kicked us all out of the office, and that kind of fell to bits. So I'd say this because it's good to know that, it's good for people to know that things don't always go smoothly. So we'll try that again this time with our recertification. I think it's going to be a lot more challenging this time because the way it's being measured is changing, and that's good. We might reach out and get some outside help this time, perhaps. Now that we know the process really well, it is really good. As difficult as it was to do ourselves, I think it's given me a really deep understanding of the assessment, which is really useful. And now I'm feeling like, oh yeah, it would be quite good to have some help with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a network of trained B consultants in Aotearoa as well, who are trained by B Lab to offer support in that space. So there are options. And we also have a partnership with New Zealand Trade and Enterprise for any export businesses who want to do a program to learn about it. It's called Business for Good. There's a cohort that's just, I think we're in our 9th cohort now, where we're supporting businesses to measure and manage their impact through a series of workshops and support from B consultants as well. And yeah, some of those do go on to certify, but also there's a whole range of businesses who are just really looking to improve their impact, which is a fantastic outcome.
Yeah.
You mentioned a bit about being open and honest and being transparent about both your sustainability report, but also the process of certifying and how sometimes it's not easy and you do need help.
Yeah.
I think that's really important in the context, especially of greenwashing.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to understand what you think the role of certifications are in this context, and how you think about that. Let's explore that a little bit more.
I guess now that I understand the process, for me as a shopper, a consumer, when I see someone's B Corp certified, I know it's rigorous and I have this trust, but that's because I know the certification really well. I think it's becoming much more widely recognized. Certainly, even if people don't know the minutiae of it, they certainly know, ones that know about it know that it's meaningful and it's not easy to achieve. So it's not a rubber stamp. For us, it's just it's good to be able to say, because otherwise I think you would take any given topic and never feel like you were doing enough. And that's good in a way because you're driven to improve, but at the same time, you want to feel like you've achieved something and it's measurable. And so I think that's really useful, and I love the way it's structured, that you continue to improve, and that there's always more that you can be doing.
Yeah, for sure. Kate, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just on greenwashing being, to me, the B Corp framework, it's not so much about good or bad or about necessarily, proving that you're good, proving that you're not bad, but about that transparency, right? And so I think the best defense against greenwashing is just to be as transparent as possible. I think that's really where people can get a little bit caught up with these things. And, at the end of the day, there's no standard, really. There's no framework that will be everything for everyone at once. And so, to us, B Corp is a great framework for this, but we will never point to it and say, this is our proof that we're not greenwashing, because I don't think there is anything we can do that for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do hear from some businesses as well that the trust mark that comes with B Corp certification gives you a little bit more confidence to talk about those things that you're not so good about, not doing so well, and also to talk about the things that you're improving. And then there's obviously a huge risk of greenwashing. If we're not talking about what we're doing and having positive impact, then we're not influencing other businesses to do better as well, and helping people to understand where the challenges are. I'm going to actually jump into a couple of the questions that we've seen in the Q&A. So we've had a question in here about are there any differences between B Corp and Toitū certification, other than Toitū being NZ specific? And I can answer this a little bit, but if anyone else wants to add to it, feel free. But essentially the key difference is that B Corp is a whole of company certification. So we look at every aspect of a business, from the governance to the way you work, as I mentioned, with your customers, suppliers, workers, and the environment. Whereas Toitū is a certification that specifically looks at environmental and carbon management. So it's specific to one part of a business. And the good thing, I guess, about the B Corp certification is that we do recognise other credible certifications. So Toitū is one of those that is recognised through our certification. So when you go through the process of doing a B impact assessment, you can submit the other certifications you have and get recognised or performance for those. And Toitū is also a B Corp certified organisation, so they've done our certification as well. So that's probably how I would respond to that question. But Kate, Kirsty, do you have anything else to say about the differences in different types of certifications, whether you've got any reflections on that? Kate, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Actually, no.
No, that's fine. That's great. Totally, that's all good. So what I might then do is talk a little bit about another question that's come in from Erica on the Q&A. So one of the questions is, would it be possible to repeat the 5 high performance standards? So there are more than 5 performance standards. There are 5 impact topic areas that we currently look at in the B impact assessment. So they're governance, workers, community, customer, and environment. So those are the 5 impact topics that we look at. And within that, there are a range of different standards or questions that relate to the standards that we set across different areas, which is relevant to the context of your business. So depending on your location and also the size of the company and the industry. So when you go into the impact assessment, you get allocated a track, which opens up different questions according to your business type and some of the answers that you give. So a very small founder-led organisation with only them employing themselves doesn't get all of the questions asked about workers because they don't have any employees, for example. So that's an example of how the questions are structured. Kirsty mentioned earlier that we are evolving our standards, and this is true. We currently have a multi-year process that we've been going through to continue to redevelop the standards that we set for businesses to be recognised for high performance. And we're in the middle of a consultation at the moment where we've published those new draft standards, which see us actually broaden out the number of impact topics and the different types of standards and ensure that all businesses will be meeting a minimum requirement across all impact topics. So the key difference being that at the moment you have flexibility in how you achieve your 80 points in the new standards, which will be introduced in the next couple of years and implemented properly in the next couple of years. There will be minimum requirements across every impact topic area. I'll shortly post a link to those draft standards if you're interested. B Corps are not yet certifying on those, but we do encourage people to contribute to the consultation and also to look at those standards to see where the movement is heading and potentially start preparing for some of the improvements that you would like to make. Cool. So did you want to ask something or add something there, Georgia?
No, I was going to say we've got another, this is fantastic, and all this information that's coming through is amazing. And I do want to make sure that people go into the assessment. I did put a link into the chat if anyone wanted to just go directly to that assessment and have a look. But Stephanie is asking a question as well. What is a good time for a business to review and assess themselves if wanting to become a B Corp certified? And then at what point would you recommend to sit the certification?
That's fun. I mean, I'm sure Kirsty's probably got something to say, speaking to lots of businesses here.
An example, it's a new business, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you do need to be in business for 12 months of operation before you can submit your certification. But as Kirsty mentioned earlier, the framework is quite a powerful tool for startup organizations to use to set and establish their businesses, like their policies, how they approach things, or thinking about how you want to structure your business in a governance sense. So it does alert you to certain things that you may not have considered when starting out your company. And then if you do have aspirations down the line, you will have done some of the groundwork to be ready to approach certification after 12 months of operation, for example. Yeah, that would probably be my advice. But Kirsty, did you want to add anything? Because I know you speak to quite a lot of small businesses.
Yeah, I think it's any time is a good time to at least look at the assessment, because you can almost guarantee there'll be something that you'll adapt, because you've seen it and you've thought that's a brilliant idea, that's where we want to get to, and you'll incorporate it. And I think there's probably lots of benefits to looking at it early on, before you have established a different way of doing things.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'd say now.
Yes, now.
Today.
That's right. Yeah, that's what we say. Don't delay.
Yeah.
It's never, improving your impact and measuring and managing your impact is never work that's wasted. It's always a positive action to take. And back to your earlier point about it being good for business. So we actually got some data out last year from our Global Insights team, which found that the B Corps through the COVID period and also just over the last 3 years were more resilient than ordinary businesses, both in terms of revenue growth and worker growth, and staying open through the pandemic. So more B Corps stayed open through the pandemic than ordinary businesses. So that data is quite compelling. So it's not only good for improving your impact, but it's also good for business. Kate, did you want to build on any of that, like the experience you've had in terms of how being an impact-driven, purpose-driven business benefits your company?
Yeah, I mean, I guess really reiterate how useful the impact assessment is at whatever stage you're on, even if you've just heard of it and you're just going to think about it. I think it's a really, really great tool. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and sorry. And I was going to say, I love the point of saying it is good for business. And Kirsty said that early on. And I know there's the altruistic part of wanting to make the world better, but we also want to make our businesses better and we want to continue to thrive. So having that resiliency, because we're moving forward in this way, is so important. And I think that that's really an interesting part of the impact that B Corp certification has. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I guess it's profit that fuels purpose as well. So there's no shying away from the fact that the businesses need to be commercially successful in order to invest in improving impact on people, planet, and communities. It's not the other way around. But even though some businesses are born purpose-driven, and others are kind of having to redesign their businesses to become certified organizations or impact-driven companies, ultimately, you need to be a sustainable business in the financial sense as well in order to be a sustainable business in the people, planet, and community space. Okay. So I'm going to just open up the conversation now to Kate or Kirsty to see if there were any other things that you wanted to bring. I know, Kirsty, you had some slides previously. I'm obviously not going to introduce those now, but is there something in your storytelling device that you were thinking about sharing that you'd like to share now?
No, not particularly, other than to say I think this certification is so interesting because we're really small, we have a factory, and then Kate is quite big and they manage assets, and we really are so different, but this has benefited us both. And I think that's, sometimes you can look at these things, especially if you're wondering about your consumers and think, maybe it's not really relevant, they're not going to care, or it won't really work for me. But that's the beauty of this certification, and why I really, really think so highly of it, is that there's benefits for any kind of business, and it doesn't matter what your consumers think. It's about what's happening before that point.
How are you seeing, I know it doesn't, purpose comes first, but how are you seeing your consumers respond or your customers respond? Are you seeing that shift happen?
Yeah, definitely. Way more people recognize the certification. People are really impressed. That's overwhelmingly, if they know it, they're super impressed that we're certified, pleased that we're certified. So I definitely think people know it. I just don't think you need to be coming at it from that point of view, that if you're trying to second guess whether you're consumers are going to like it or not. It'll work really well for you regardless. And people, you know, it's great to see bigger businesses certify, because the certification itself becomes much more widely known. And of course, the bigger the business, the bigger the impact. So I'm really happy to see businesses like Nespresso or Danone or Kathmandu certify. I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. In order to shift the economy, we need big businesses to change too. And you're absolutely right that they have outweighed influence on impact in the world. So it's really good to see that diversity. I think we're in over 160 industries now across the world, so, and all different sizes. But over the last few years, we have seen more large companies enter and multinational companies enter the movement, which is a really good sign that the change is taking hold and that we are working towards that vision, which, absolutely is an urgent need. Kate, did you want to add to that point around what the drivers are to certification and how you come to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, it's a really great point on the difference in business sizes. I think, you know, there are different benefits that a small company is going to get than a larger company. I think a larger company, there's going to be a higher expectation to have that certification really formalized. If you're a smaller business, and especially if you're a younger business, I think even the commitment to moving towards B Corp certification, even without actually certifying, I think is something that customers will really resonate with them as a small business, versus, you know, your sort of Unilevers, your Nespressos, where maybe that's a little bit more expected, I guess, from a consumer standpoint.
What role do you see the businesses within the B Corp movement having in influencing other businesses?
I mean, I guess from a competitive standpoint, I think that's an angle I try to take anyway when I'm talking to other businesses that may or may not be interested. I think it's, you know, the idea of being left behind when everyone else is committing to purpose, to doing business differently. I think we're seeing, you know, a lot of really big mainstream companies starting to make these kind of noises, maybe not necessarily going directly towards an impact business model, but starting to sort of take those small little baby footsteps. And so that's something that I think is very encouraging.
For sure. I would encourage anyone, if you've got any final questions, to jump on to the Q&A and let us know if you have any questions you would like our panelists to answer. I will, just on the back of that point around competition, or, you know, making the case for certification, what sort of, I guess, collective action or groups or networks, if any, are you a part of, or would you like to see happen and take shape in Aotearoa, New Zealand, as part of this business movement?
Well, for us, I guess we engage with the B Corp community here in Aotearoa. You know, there's sort of events every now and again. We would love to be more engaged. We would love more B Corp events. Obviously, we've got, you know, B Corp month, and we're trying to get really active and do some advocacy at this time. But yeah, we really do. We want to see a huge B Corp community here in Aotearoa, and I think we really do have the foundations for it. I think New Zealand companies, at least this is what I hear anecdotally from other countries, is that you know, New Zealanders take this stuff seriously and are passionate about this stuff a lot more so than some other places. And so I think that's, again, very encouraging for this country. And I think there's some really great, you know, community possibilities here.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Kirsty? Are you involved in any networks through the B Corp community?
I'm actually not really, and that's something that I'm looking forward to doing. I didn't really, like I said, I sort of did the certification mostly on my own, and then didn't. Then we had, straight after we certified, we had a massive fire and it shut us down, and then we had COVID, and I sort of haven't engaged a lot in the community, and I'm just starting to appreciate how interesting it is and how useful we can be to each other. So it's a whole nother aspect of this, really, where you have suddenly you have a whole lot of businesses that are like-minded, but across a vast array of industries, and there's no other I don't know any other group that would provide that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite industry focused.
Yes, and we are seeing some industry-based coalitions emerging, like the Bee Beauty Coalition, for example. But I think, yeah, that you're absolutely right that the power comes from the diversity across different types of businesses working together to change the system. Yeah. We've got a question from Anna for you, Kirsty, which is, how do you use B Corp within your supply chain? And are there enough bee suppliers to make your beer?
The short answer is no. And with beer, we're really limited in our choices for our major cogs, so hops, malt, packaging. Having said that, you still bring the same mindset to your decision. So there's 2 malt suppliers in New Zealand. One's a multinational, one's a family-owned business that we know that really transparent about all their practices. Obviously, they're our supplier, Gladfield Malt, because that's our lens that we look for suppliers through. When we have suppliers that I won't name that I'm not that thrilled with, then I guess all we can do is ask questions of them all the time, which they then send to their legal department on the other side of the world, and 4 months later you get some kind of obtuse answer. What do? You just have to keep asking questions when you don't have choice. We've got a restaurant attached to the brewery, and we have a lot more choice there, and B Corp's definitely influenced the way we go about finding suppliers. We're always very focused on local suppliers anyway, but now we've started to think, well, how can we support Indigenous business? Can we be more purpose driven with this? Like, can we just go further? So there's some opportunity to do that with suppliers, but it's tricky. And I know probably a lot of businesses are like that. You're a little bit stuck.
Yeah, until that movement really grows, then yes. Do you use a supplier code of conduct? Like, how do you engage with your suppliers when you're looking at?
So we've tried that. We got our suppliers that we knew were great anyway answer the questions, and the ones that you don't feel so confident about, they don't. I guess we're a little bit lucky that our suppliers are almost all New Zealand based. Almost all our hops are grown here. All the malt is grown here. The glass was a New Zealand owned company, but it's still manufactured here. The card's manufactured here. So we're a bit fortunate in that respect that our suppliers are based here anyway. So you already know there's a certain standard of operation that they're meeting in terms of what people are paid and holidays and all those types of things. But yeah, we'll definitely try. We'll be putting out another supplier questionnaire and seeing whether there's any improvement this time.
Yeah, great. And Kate, how do you engage with your suppliers through Pathfinder?
Yeah, so obviously we have a pretty different kind of supply chain, obviously not producing an actual product, just service-based. But where we can, we definitely try and engage with B Corp suppliers as much as we can, obviously where they exist. Otherwise, we do have our ethical sort of sourcing policy, which we don't require B Corp certification or anything, but it's a big plus for us in terms of choosing our suppliers if they are B Corp.
Well, back to the earlier point about the desire for more activity and engagement with the B Corp community. I would like to shout out to B Corp Month. So March is B Corp Month. I did post a link in the chat just now with a link through to our regional page. So this is a global campaign where we come together as a movement to celebrate all that it means to be a B Corp. And this year, the theme is This Way Forward, which is all about how businesses are continually improving their impact. And we have volunteer networks of B Local communities. So B Locals, they're called. They're small groups of businesses that come together to coordinate events for B Corps and aspiring B Corps or friends of the movement to come together. And there are quite a few events coming up in March. So I would encourage anyone on the call or interested to jump online and check out those in in Auckland, Welly, and Christchurch. So hopefully someone near you. Yeah, and I guess that's probably close to the end of the conversation. Georgia, did you want to add anything?
No, I just wanted to thank you all for coming on and sharing your mahi and your expertise with us. This is such, I'm all of a sudden getting a little emotional. It's such an important topic. And I find that, as Kirsty and I talked about earlier, once you get the ball rolling, then you can see these different points where you can incorporate ways forward within the business and within our lives in general, right? So don't get too overwhelmed by too much. And when you go on to the assessment, don't freak out. There's a lot you can look at, but then you can just take one little point and then you'll see another little point. And as we saw in supply chain, where Kate and Kirsty were both talking about different businesses, product versus service based, and you've got ways forward, and it'll just steamroll and become this new way forward. And that's the hope. I think that is what we're seeing. You know, it's not even a hope at this point. I think now it's just the trajectory of what we're on. And everyone who's come on to witness this and to be a part of this, thank you. Those of you who are watching the recording, we do have a couple links in the chat you won't see on the recording. Reach out to us at support@digitalboost.co.nz. We can get those to you. Or Angie, they can just go to bcorporation.com, right? Is that it?
Yeah, bcorporation.com.au or bcorpmonth.com if you wanted to check that out. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kirsty, Kate, and Angie. I always love having conversations like this. And all of you who have attended, love seeing you. And we'll see you for the next one, hopefully. And let's keep moving forward.
Thanks so much, Georgia. Thanks, Kate and Kirsty.
Thank you.
Matewa, everyone.